In this podcast episode, Sam Corcos, currently serving as the Chief Information Officer for the U.S. Treasury Department, offers a deep dive into the challenges and realities of modernizing government IT systems, particularly the IRS. His reflections range from structural inefficiencies, contractor dynamics, and government culture to the tense interplay between innovation and bureaucracy within the federal government. Sam Corcos landed his current role amid calls for urgent reform in government IT modernization, especially focused on the IRS's decades-long, multi-billion-dollar modernization effort. As CIO, Corcos sees himself as the technical leader responsible for steering the Treasury's information technology strategy, despite the position historically being treated more like a librarian role than a high-level tech leadership function. This outdated conception has created significant gaps, especially since prior CIO appointments in government have often lacked technical expertise due to the absence of formal requirements. Corcos explains that his technical background as a software developer and former CEO uniquely positions him to confront these challenges, although the transition from private sector leadership to government bureaucracy has been striking. He notes that despite overseeing gargantuan IT budgets and missions critical to national security and economic function, his compensation and authority are modest compared to private sector standards. The role demands a sustained effort to update decades-old systems while overcoming outdated processes and cultural inertia embedded deeply in government agencies like the IRS. The conversation illuminates the role of the Doge initiative, a movement spawned under an executive order aimed at driving federal IT modernization. Though frequently misunderstood or sensationalized in the media, Doge operates as a loosely connected group of mission-driven individuals embedded within various agencies, tasked with cutting wasteful spending and introducing systems reforms. Corcos describes himself as Doge adjacent, brought in directly by the Treasury but frequently coordinating with the Doge team. The executive order gives Doge critical authorities, including contract review powers, facilitating unprecedented structural changes. For example, one of Corcos's first acts involved putting the entire leadership team of IRS IT on administrative leave due to insufficient technical competence, a move requiring political courage and emblematic of Doge's willingness to disrupt long-standing but dysfunctional practices. While Doge has faced criticism for its approach and optics, Corcos emphasizes the initiative's essential role in shaking up entrenched government systems. Working inside government, as Corcos details, often means navigating thick layers of bureaucracy and complex office politics that slow decision-making to a crawl. A familiar theme is a culture of risk aversion where no one wants to make a decision that could lead to blame, resulting in excessive committees and a cover-your-ass mentality. These political undercurrents play a significant role in impeding modernization efforts and in retaining non-technical leadership in crucial IT positions. Corcos sympathizes with many long-serving employees caught in this system, noting many have been promoted based on tenure rather than technical aptitude, creating systemic dysfunction. Despite these challenges, he shares that meaningful change is only possible when leadership demonstrates courage and sets clear priorities, something he has seen in the current administration and at Treasury. However, he cautions that while political appointees like himself have more flexibility, they remain heavily reliant on civil servants who understand and implement changes on the ground. One striking aspect Sam highlights is the persistent reliance on antiquated technologies, most notoriously the continued use of fax machines at the IRS. Despite digital alternatives, faxing remains the gold standard in many government processes because of outdated policies or simply inertia. Corcos describes the struggle to pinpoint accountability for why faxes endure, revealing a labyrinthine bureaucratic deflection that sidelines needed reform. This reliance on obsolete technology creates inefficiencies, drives additional manual labor, and frustrates both employees and citizens. Corcos connects this to the broader issue of shadow IT, where various government teams build their own isolated systems because they cannot rely on official IT functions, compounding fragmentation. The anecdotal evidence of racks stacked with backlogged paper files shows how even with billions of dollars spent, basic modernization lags far behind private sector norms. A major headache in government modernization, Corcos explains, is the procurement process. Contrary to common assumptions that government budgets are too tight, the problem is rigid, cumbersome rules that make even simple purchases or hiring nearly impossible without lengthy, overly bureaucratic competitive bidding and vendor contests. He relates detailed stories of vendors dramatically inflating prices during contract renewals because historically no one said no. These procurement inefficiencies fuel widespread contractor bloat, with many contracts paying for services that are not used whatsoever. Corcos exposes how some small disadvantaged business programs intended to accelerate procurement actually incentivize fraud and graft, with handsomely padded contracts disappearing into shell companies. Reforming procurement rules and injecting accountability into contract management are foundational priorities for lasting government IT reforms. The relationship between government agencies and technology contractors is fraught with challenges, largely stemming from misaligned incentives. Contractors are paid inflated sums under firm fixed-price contracts, often for work that is unknown or unnecessary, because the people approving expenditures rarely have the technical knowledge to question vendors. Corcos notes that these contractors thrive because historically government officials rarely push back on pricing or scope. Alongside this, Corcos highlights how salary caps and restrictive pay scales for government IT employees drive talent away, forcing agencies to rely on contractors to fill senior roles, a costly and ineffective approach that compounds bloat. The typical vendor, exemplified by massive government-dependent consulting firms like Booz Allen Hamilton, often sees government agencies as soft negotiators, perpetuating an exploitative cycle that undercuts efficient modernization. Corcos provides a nuanced defense of the civil service. Established to prevent the disruptive spoils system of the 19th century, civil service protections were designed to ensure continuity and competence regardless of political shifts. However, these protections have hardened into obstacles to accountability and organizational agility. Long tenures and a fire almost never culture often leave many ill-suited personnel in critical roles indefinitely. The paradox is that while transparency and protection from political interference are necessary, they also inhibit performance management, replacing meritocratic advancement with tenure-based promotions. Corcos observes widespread tendencies to promote underperformers upward rather than fire them, causing systemic inefficiencies. He argues that personnel reform, including better performance evaluations and firings tied to merit, is crucial to preserving institutional knowledge while improving effectiveness. Central to Corcos's thesis is that improving government IT depends fundamentally on leadership quality and technical expertise. He contrasts agencies where CIOs lack technical backgrounds against rare success stories where deep technical knowledge permeates leadership, enabling efficient teams and better outcomes. At the IRS, technical interviews were historically absent from hiring, making it difficult to hire proficient engineers and manage contractors effectively. This leadership deficit cascades into poor decision-making, bloated budgets, and outdated systems. Corcos is committed to rebuilding the IRS engineering function by ensuring that roles labeled engineering are genuinely staffed by engineers, reshaping hiring processes, and revamping performance standards. The reform includes restoring technical hiring manager involvement to reduce reliance on HR's often inadequate screening and reorienting organizational priorities towards sustainable software development practices. While modernization is often dressed up in buzzwords, Corcos insists it's fundamentally about changing the organization, not merely replacing software or moving to the cloud. Government IT is not a build once and forget problem, but an evolving system requiring constant maintenance, incremental improvements, and cultural shifts toward modern development methods such as continuous integration. Corcos uses a powerful analogy. Unlike buildings constructed front-loaded with maintenance deferred, software systems are like puppies requiring daily feeding, training, and care. Legacy systems built on mainframes are sometimes perfectly serviceable, but often overburdened by complex tax code changes and incompatible interfaces, leading to the proliferation of isolated shadow IT systems. Tackling these issues requires patient organizational reform supported by skilled leadership, not flashy one-time projects. Arguably, one of the most impactful insights Corcos shares is how deeply technology underpins tax enforcement and policy implementation, effectively making the IRS a massive tech company. Every change in tax legislation cascades into software updates, form redesigns, and back-end compliance checking that affect trillions of dollars of revenue. He stresses how tax policy interpretation by legal experts must translate flawlessly into coded systems, often within tight deadlines. Corcos also illuminates the complexity faced in accommodating countless edge cases, such as individuals without digital access or with varying legal statuses, which dramatically increase the difficulty of designing user-friendly IRS systems. This intertwining of policy, legal interpretation, and IT infrastructure underscores why modernization is so critical, not just for operational efficiency, but for upholding the tax system's fairness and reliability in a diverse nation. Public trust in the federal government is notably low, hovering around 16% according to recent surveys. Corcos observes that skepticism is natural and possibly healthy, but he also credits the media environment with amplifying non-representative negative stories. The narrative around the Doge initiative exemplifies this, where initiatives meant to improve efficiency are often misrepresented as reckless hackathons or unaccountable tech boondoggles. He notes that much of the internal government reform work happens quietly and involves painstaking bureaucratic grind rather than dramatic showmanship. This creates a tension between optics and outcomes, with politics often valuing image over substantive progress. Corcos believes improving communication and managing public perception more effectively could help the public better understand government modernization's benefits. Finally, Corcos shares candid reflections about his personal journey, grappling with the sacrifices required to serve in government leadership compared to his prior role as a tech CEO. Compensation is significantly lower, and the environment is vastly more constrained, with less autonomy and more procedural hurdles. Additionally, the role demands an intense focus on meetings and coordination, leaving little room for the deep focused work Corcos previously enjoyed. He acknowledges that many capable mid-career professionals are deterred from public service due to these challenges, leaving government leadership dominated by either committed retirees or early career individuals with fewer responsibilities. Despite this, Corcos embraces the mission-driven nature of government work, expressing determination to create lasting change while openly acknowledging the personal costs involved.